And now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning, let's bring in Arise analyst Constance Ikoku.
Good morning, Charles.
Good morning, Constance.
Good morning.
And I'd like to say Happy New Year. We're seeing
Yes.
for the first time this year.
Yes, we haven't seen. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes. I went on break and then you went and then everybody's back. Okay, welcome everyone. To look at the papers with us this morning, we have Dr. Austin Maho. He is a lecturer at the International Institute for Journalism in Abuja. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. Oyedele, it's Untrue, tax committee didn't reach out. Governors refused to meet us. The uproar over the tax bills by some sections of the country obviously continues, but we're receiving new information, according to this report today or article. Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Taiwo Oyedele, says Nigerian Governors Forum cancelled 4 scheduled meetings. And he also said that the committee met over 120 Ulamas and League of Northern Democrats and is still willing to meet more people. Dr. Maho, I don't know what else anyone wants. It seems like some are of the view that no matter what, these bills must be buried.
Well, it's happily Oyedele is coming back, to clarify, the consultation that we held, before the bill was presented at the National Assembly. It's good he's talking. However, what I actually feel is that there's a need for more consultation. If some sections of the country or some stakeholders, within the policy field that consultation was not extensive enough, I think time should be given. More consultation should be made in the interest of peace, in the interest of pushing ahead with the tax reform bill. It has been dogged by so many controversies. And I think the way to go is to reach a general consensus.
Right.
At this stage, I actually feel that, look, there's no need for the presidency, to force a tax bill down the throat of Nigerians and all stakeholders when they are not prepared to accept it. More consultation needs to be held in order to create harmony and not kind of this back and forth as a result of people have identified within the tax bill itself.
All right, so Ms. Oyedele says they are willing to talk more, so we'll see how that goes. Let's stay with this day. There's another story there. The president trip to Enugu, he was there to commission a lot of projects, and he talked about the private sector, encouraging the private sector individuals to move into politics. He said, a lot of them can help to build Nigeria. What we can tease from this is that politics should be more than just playing politics. You have a lot of private sector people who have built something. When they come into the political circle or the political landscape, they have something to offer, as opposed to career politicians who have never built anything. Charles?
Well, I think that politics in Nigeria seems to be having a pervasive effect on whomsoever, whether it's a technocrat, whether it's a private sector player, whether it's a career politician, but somehow, I just get this distinct feeling that even when they come in, they have to start playing ball, they have to start falling in line. So most of the time, those technical competences seem to be lost under the pervasive influence of what happens in the kind of politics we play in here. So I just keep wondering whether if they come in, they'll make a difference or they'll simply, roll with the tide. I mean, that's my own concern in this matter, because, we have our own brand of politics here, and the influence it has on individuals is absolutely mind-blowing. So, well, let them come in and let's see what kind of difference they'll make. Hopefully, somebody might buck the trend someday.
Well, good questions you raised there, because it's also about the political system, right? Yeah. It's not easy for one person to make a change. The Guardian, let's take these two stories together. Fresh agitation trails states for execution of new minimum wage. And Peter Obi decries intimidation, insists on fighting for better Nigeria. Apparently, workers are still struggling with being paid that paltry minimum wage, 70,000 naira, passed in 2024. We knew this was going to be a problem, although it's not an excuse, Dr. Maho, is it?
It's not an excuse. The 70,000 naira on its own is paltry, less than $40, isn't it? And you still have state governors that are not willing to implement that new minimum wage. It calls for question because the new minimum wage has been signed into law. It's a legislation. It's legally binding on all the federal, the subnational, the state governors and other stakeholders to implement that new minimum wage. Even as it is, we all know that 70,000 naira minimum wage cannot take any worker far. So when you now hear of a situation that is not even being implemented, it's shocking that you begin to ask yourself, do these people feel what the average Nigerian worker is going through, that you still deprive them of a minimum wage that was negotiated for over a period of almost 2 years, and at the end of the day you still don't want to implement it? It's sad. And I think whatever action Labour may need to take to ensure that the new minimum wage is fully implemented across board is welcome at this point in time.
And we'll go to the Peter Obi story. Peter Obi is was the presidential candidate of Labour Party in 2023, and he was talking about the consequences of being an opposition figure. He's talking about his businesses being targeted and attempts to intimidate him in trying to point out or criticize the government, and he says it's not been easy for him, Charles.
Naturally, being in the opposition is never easy because, it's like flowing against the tide. Well, a difference that was made in this issue of being in the opposition was, the emergence of the All Progressives Congress. But the APC actually got its strength mostly from the disgruntled members of the incumbent party at that time, and that's why the opposition for once in Nigeria was able to triumph over the incumbent. But then afterwards, being in the opposition is definitely a very difficult proposition. But the question I am asking right now is that if Peter Obi is in the opposition, is he still a member of the Labour Party? Has he gone back to the People's Democratic Party? Well, that's the question I will be asking at this point. But yes,
no, he is still a member of the Labour Party.
Some time ago, there was some controversy about that. Some members of the Labour Party said, well, he did come in. We gave him a platform to run on. And this time around, we want to have, somebody from within. That's why I'm having those doubts.
Well, officially hasn't left the Labour Party. Yolanda, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. In the media talk that was had a few days ago, this was one of the things he actually pointed out. And he said that we need to get to a point where it doesn't matter which party you belong to, as long as we're all working towards serving the nation. And I think that's what we should be looking at the moment.
All right. Daily Independent. Northern Democrats woo Southern politicians to form new parties, says APC, PDP, Labour Party, NNPP. Others have failed Nigeria. This group is led by Senator Ibrahim Shekarau. They are called League of Northern Democrats, and they want like-minded counterparts from the South to join them to form what they call League of National Democrats that can become a registered political party ahead of 2027. Dr. Maho, the question has to be asked, what will be different? Where are we getting this pool of politicians? It is still from the same pool of water. Ibrahim Shekarau is an old hand in this sector, so what difference can they make?
It makes no difference. Nigerians' problem is not political party, but it's the politicians. So like you rightly observe, when you talk about Nigerians' politicians, where are you recruiting them from? Is it not from the same corrupt, inefficient, grab it, run with it class of politicians that we are all talking about? So as long as we play politics the way we'll be playing it, political parties just become a mere, what I'll call a vehicle to grab power. What you do with it, it doesn't matter. But if we actually have ideological based political power that exists in the interest of the people, that is people-centered in its policies and programs, then we'll begin to talk about forming a new political party. If these political parties they are talking about, on what ideology is it based on? Is it just to grab power, or is it to present an alternative to the current system we have. That is what we should be looking at. We need an alternative. An alternative should be based on ideology. What is the ideology? Right. These same people you are talking about, these same people that have come together to say, oh, we want to form a new political party, they are the same people who may have cross-carpeted from
other parties,
exactly.
The APC, all because they didn't get what they
exactly.
want within those political structure. And they now feel that forming a new political party will give them the leverage they need to be able to grab power.
If anybody should be calling for change at this time around, it shouldn't be the politicians, the ilk of Shekarau. Shekarau was actually one of the founding fathers of the All Progressives Congress. He was a member of the People's Democratic Party. He was part of the ANPP. He has been all around. And then this time around, he's still calling for a change, and he has not been able to make that change. This is that will be the third political party, and then he's still calling for a fourth one. Come on, if anybody should be calling for the change of the system within politics, it definitely shouldn't be him. We should have fresh faces, and these calls are actually coming from northern politicians. Why is it that it's not the southern politicians calling for a coalition to upstage the APC, in 2027?
All right, well, we all know the politics of it. Let's move on to Daily Sun. 2025, FG to spend 4 billion on presidential helipad jetty in Lagos. This project is part of the larger 1.138 trillion naira allocated to the Ministry of Works, which will oversee its execution. The construction of the new helipad and jetty will begin following approval of the 2025 budget. It's meant to mark a vital step in improving transportation and ensuring smooth, efficient travel for government officials. Well, smooth travel for government officials, this will be questioned by many. But if it eases movement when the president is in Lagos, maybe that makes sense, because anytime he's in Lagos, the traffic caused by his motorcade is simply unbearable for residents. The last time people were talking about spending 4 to 6 hours in the traffic because of presidential movement. Dr. Maho, it's painful.
It's because his presidential motorcade is too long. Have you counted the number of cars in the president's convoy? It's an embarrassment, especially when at this point in time we are talking about cutting down on the cost of government. I've said it severally. The government, the federal government, the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu cannot be telling Nigerians to cut down on their cost, to tightening their belt when it will seem as if he is loosening his own belt. Since 1999, we've had how many presidents? None of them thought about building the word is a presidential helipad.
Yes,
it's presidential helipad that the budget proposal is meant for. It's not for other government officials. It's specifically meant for Mr. President. Just as Mr. President acquired a new presidential jet for himself, a new presidential yacht for himself, and a new presidential Chevrolet Escalade for himself.
Right.
It's like the presidency is not about comfort for Mr. President. It's about the people.
Okay.
And when you don't put the people at the center of your administration, it's a problem. I look at that budget.
Okay, Dr. Maho, okay, let's move on. We have a couple of other papers who want to see the headlines. New Telegraph quickly, 2027, Northern Bloc plans to register with INEC. We also have insecurity, we may engage local arms manufacturers according to CDS. We also have the Vanguard this morning. 2025 organized private sector charts economic growth path. Then vet doctors raise concern over dog attacks and deaths. Then the Punch, we have here President in Enugu again, Tinubu taking Enugu on the path of 21st Century Development Commission's multiple projects. FG tightens monitoring to quarantine China passengers. Then Daily Trust, 2 trillion naira power projects stalled. That's a big one. Okay, to the international headlines. The Citizen, South Africa. Now we are a mafia state. This article talks about South Africa becoming an extortionist nation where businesses are targeted with kidnapping, ransom, and blackmail, and this is happening, to the disabled and elderly and everyone. SA is rated in the upper quadrant of mafia states with countries like Mexico. Indicators are that the extortionists thrived during the festive period due to reduction in law enforcement officers who had taken leave or were reassigned to monitor tourist spots. Yolanda, a new year and it's not looking good at all.
It's not looking good at all, and I don't think it's been looking good for South Africa lately in the news. It's unfortunate to hear such news and to see that as well government officials are intertwined in this organized crime that seems to be going on. I remember some time back the transport industry in South Africa as well as the mining sector had some extortion demands that were spoken about with some talk of violence, and it's to be compared to a country like Mexico. I mean, mafia would definitely be the right word. It seems Dr. Maho has something with that as well.
Yeah, the times, it's a lot going on out there. Well, kidnapping, ransom, we also have that in Nigeria. Anyway, the times...
hopefully not on that scale.
Well, I mean, we've been fighting that, so we'll see whether 2025 is much better. The times, Farage doesn't have what it takes to lead reform, says Musk. Elon Musk has said that Nigel Farage should be replaced as leader of the Reform UK. This followed the collapse of their relationship due to differing views. They disagreed after Musk called for a release of Tommy Robinson, the former leader of the English Defence League, who is in prison for contempt of court. Farage did not want Robinson to join Reform UK due to his extreme views, describing him as a serial criminal. Yolanda, again, this relationship has packed up even before it began, and quite a number of British people are uncomfortable with Elon Musk making this kind of statements and trying to interfere in British politics.
I myself am uncomfortable with Elon Musk making this type of accusation. And I'll play the devil's advocate with this one by saying, what authority does Elon Musk have to make these sorts of allegations? On what grounds does he speak on? Before all of this, was he not meant to make some donations to this Farage? Was he supposed? Were they not, in bed with the same principles before? What has happened now to bring this on?
I just get the feeling that Elon Musk is trying to be some sort of Anglophone international political influencer. You know, from influencing the Trump administration, he's actually a part of it now, and then he has jumped over the Atlantic Ocean to try to influence politics in the United Kingdom as well, knowing that originally he's from South Africa, right?
South Africa, yes, he is.
Oh, come on, that's one for Africa.
Well, it has a lot of money, so I think it paid off. The investment paid off in the U.S., so he's trying to see whether he can go across the shore. So we'll be watching that for you. The Washington Post, if we have that, this town was built on a migrant's cash. Now it fears Trump's deportations. So this is talking about President Trump's planned mass deportations, which could affect Mexico. Initially it was to talk about families potentially being split. Now, we're talking about cash being dried up, some of these monies that are coming from relatives from America to Mexico. So if there's mass deportation, it's going to affect a lot of people, Dr. Maho.
Yeah, it will. The issue of immigration was a very huge one, to the run up to the last presidential election in the U.S., which was eventually won by President Trump. He ran on it, and he's bent on implementing it.
Yes.
20th of this month is a date with history, and he has promised that he's going to carry out the largest deportation of illegal immigrants in the United States. Immediately assume power. He's not going to wait. It's estimated that by 11 million undocumented immigrants are living in the United States, and many of them are across the border, with half of them actually, by estimate, are said to be Mexican. So they should be prepared for what is to come.
Okay, we've run out of time, but Dr. Maho, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. Thank you so much, Dr. Constance. Thank God I got your name correctly today. I committed that blunder before so many times. All right, I got comfort out of my mind. Well then, the morning show is up next.
And I'm Yolanda. Thank you very much for having us today. As Charles has said, the morning show comes next. Goodbye.